Brilliance Audio.
The Street by Susi Holliday. Performed by Imogen Church. She stood on the back doorstep sipping coffee, gazing across the Firth of Forth towards the coastal towns on the other side. Sunlight glistened on the waves, and the colourful sails of the windsurfers in the bay made the view reminiscent of a painting that you might buy on a day trip to the seaside. The setting was glorious, and she knew she should be grateful to be here. Not that she had any choice. After everything that happened, the brief stint in horrible temporary accommodation had been a huge eye-opener, and she was glad to be away from it. She hoped that a sense of normality would return soon. Swapping London for a small sleepy town on the east coast of Scotland wasn't what she'd hoped for, but she was just going to have to adapt. The street wasn't even in the small town. It was on the site of an old power station that had been demolished several years ago. A conveyor belt of possible developments mooted and discarded, until finally the council had agreed to let it be turned into housing. Luxury housing. An exclusive gated community with a private beach boasting views of Arthur's Seat, that volcanic lump in the middle of Edinburgh, and the iconic Forth Bridges. How had they ended up in a place like this? Their London life had been comfortable, sure, but this was another level. Or so it seemed so far. They were both fortunate to have portable jobs, so they wouldn't have to start again from scratch. Her husband would probably have welcomed something new. He was already having to adapt more than she was. His work needed specific space and equipment that might not slot so easily into this fancy new home. She had a feeling that he was no longer happy with his choice of career, sensing his restlessness even before they'd started to prepare for this move. But she'd only ever been a writer, and she wasn't sure she was mentally equipped to do anything else. A life like this was actually perfect, given that she literally made things up for a living. She'd written thrillers and romance novels under various pseudonyms, and she knew she could turn her hand to newspaper articles, maybe a bit of ghost writing. She could reinvent herself over and over again, and she could transform herself from city girl to country girl. Couldn't she? She had already started to edge away from the busy social life that she'd tried to cultivate during her career. The endless networking had become tiring after a while. But she was still sad to leave some people behind. People who had been important to her. To both of them. Once upon a time. But she was curious and open-minded about this new chapter, and more than happy to make new friends, although she wasn't sure how close she'd be allowed to get to anyone in this place. Her husband seemed a little less enthusiastic, but he would be busy soon enough, learning how to adapt his own work. Switching from cabinet making to crafting wooden toys was not his preferred option, but there was no space in the new property for a big workshop, so he would just have to deal with it. They would both just have to deal with it. Because this was their new life, and the old one was gone. She hoped it might cheer him up a bit, too. He'd been on edge for months, snapping more than usual, not like himself at all.